Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. We're glad you decided to check us out. God has a specific message of hope for your life and mine today. So listen up.
You think you own me, but you don't. You think you can destroy me. You can't. Your labels do not contain me. Your lies do not intimidate me. I will not be less than what I was created to be, and I will not run in fear. Time and time again, you've held me down, but not today. Today, I win the battle. Today, you run from me, because I am strong. I am courageous. I'm an overcomer.
I tell you, last week we had a really great Easter. I hope you're able to join us. If you weren't, that's okay. If you're visiting family or doing the spring break thing, if you were taking your break, you know, how many parents are really ready for your kids to go back this week? Just raise your hand. I'm seeing it. Yeah, I see you out across there. I feel you parents out there, because my wife is great, because when we have spring break, she rolls in, she says, all right, we're going to have theme days. This is work day, this is outside day, this is go do something day, this is work in a yard day. She's got stuff to keep them going, you know, because when you get them, they've been structured for all this time, and you get back in your life, and all of a sudden there's nothing to do. It can be like crazy. You know, I don't know about you guys, but some of my siblings, some of my children, not in this room, but they like to do this. Do y'all have any two kids that like to get at each other and they know how to push buttons? You have them? Oh, I see that. Yeah, Kelly, I know one with you. They try to do that. So to keep them distracted and to keep them doing other things, we plan stuff throughout the week. That's how we overcome spring break. You know, that's how we do that, you know, here. Last week we had a great Easter. Easter was awesome. We celebrated Jesus. We had a great day, and we started this series called Overcomer. And I know that I talk to people all the time in our church and outside of our church, and it seems like I talked to a guy yesterday, and he was talking about how he was having to overcome in his life right now. He's got 3 teenagers, a 19, a 17, and a 14, and he gets 2 days scheduled at work at the job he's working at, and he's like, that just doesn't even pay the bill. I just walk out at a convenience store. I just walk out to pay for my Coke, and the dude starts unloading on me, which is fine. I mean, he's a cool guy. I mean, we talk all the time, and I don't want to tell you that. If you go to convenience stores or regular places with people, be chummy with people, be friends. Don't just expect they're just not automatons that are up there to make change for you. They're people with lives, and you never know what God's going to do through a conversation. But we started talking, and we had a long conversation just about what's going on in his life, and he's trying to find another job or find some way to get more hours and all of those type of things, and I was able to help him with a couple things I'd heard recently, because you never know. That was a God moment, because I had heard XYZ, which played just right into his ABC, and so I'm just like, okay, hey, guess what? I know something. Let me tell you this. But you never know about those moments. But everybody I talk to, they're overcoming something. There's always something. There's a barrier or something in their life that they need to overcome. And what we learned last week is that the power to really overcome in your life began at the resurrection. That was the origin of all of it. See, because the truth is that the reason you have to overcome anything, and I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but I want you to let this sink in. The reason you have anything to overcome is because of the presence of sin in the world. Now, a lot of times when you say that, overcoming the barriers you have, we like to say, oh, well, I did a particular sin, so then God's getting me back with X. Well, no, God tells us all the way through his word. He said, look, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. Or if you don't do this, because if you don't, this will happen, which is good. Or if you do this will happen, that is bad. And all of those are not God saying, okay, you didn't get you real good. What that's about a lot of times is just how it works. It's like if you go stick your finger in a light socket over there, we all know what's going to happen, right? But sometimes we don't get it. I remember there's a famous story in our family. I got my brother-in-law. I mean, he's awesome. He's hard-headed, though. You know, and he took a fork one time, and Katie was playing the piano when he was a little kid, and she heard this big flash off to her left, and he's sitting back like this, you know, and he took a fork, and he jammed it in the light socket. And I said he was stubborn like most of us, so they got him clear of that and everything. She went back to playing the piano, and dude did it again. One time was not enough. Now, every one of you know you laugh at him, but every one of you are in that same situation. I'm in that situation. How many times the battles and the barriers that we face are things that we have faced before, and we go back to it again and again and again and again. And the power to overcome, this series is going to be great. We're going to talk about several things. We're going to be talking about overcoming the comfort of apathy. You know, this is one of the most apathetic generations that we have. You know, we get so bogged down with everything that you just get a big dose of I don't care from a lot of people a lot of times. And that just spirals down. We're going to be talking about overcoming the face of fear in your life. I don't think we realize sometimes how much fear is the motivator and the driver for what we do in upcoming. And we're going to talk about overcoming the lies of labeling. I don't think there's ever been a time in history that labels have been a more divisive thing, especially in our country. It's the hardest thing in the world to just be a dude or to be a girl, right? You know, you got a label. You're this. Your ideology is that. Your religion is this. You work at this. Your income level is this. Your social status is this. You've got X amount of friends or so many likes or whatever followers and all of this stuff, and it classes you. It's so hard to just be a person. We'll be talking about that, but I'm going to tell you about this Sunday. Today, we're going to be talking about overcoming the curse of comparison. To this week is for me. I'm going to be real honest with you. Last week we were coming in to service, and I'm on, you know, I'm zipping through my Facebook feed before we come into church and everything, and I'm like, we got a great service planned, and you know, our student team is going to take care. We're going to have this awesome Easter egg hunt. We're going to have 1,000 eggs out there, and I'm all fired up. It's going to be super cool. It's based in 3 different areas, and the kids are going to have a good time, and all this stuff. And what do I run across in my Facebook feed? Right as I'm feeling good about that, I run across this ad that says, Brevard's largest Easter egg hunt. It's like a church up the way, which I have no malice against, but they're like, 20,000 Easter eggs, man! 20,000 Easter eggs. And instantly, what did I do? Oh, man, they must not love Jesus because they got some theological problem because, you know, they don't love Jesus like, there's something wrong with there. I got 1,000 and I'm thinking, okay, does Walmart sell 19,000 Easter eggs? They sell 19,001 so I can love Jesus the best in the area or something like that. Is there something that I can do? You know, but I'm going to tell you, it's difficult, and we all do this, right? We all do this. We have this comparison thing. You know, you buy a car. You think your car is the most awesome thing in the world. It's amazing. You know, you're a guy, all the women are going to want to go out with you because of this car. And you pull up to get gas at the gas station, and somebody pulls up beside you in like a brand new Dodge Charger or a fully loaded F-150 or an Escalade or whatever your dream car is, and you're like, ugh. My car sucks. Looks like I don't know what that looks like. Nobody, you know, and you all of a sudden it just takes the wind out of your sails. You know, you've been there. Maybe it's happened. You go shopping, and you get this awesome shirt, and this shirt is like it's going to be coming. I don't know about you know, but guys have the one shirt, right? Everyone knows what I'm talking about. We have the one shirt. It's the go-to shirt. You know, and if it's going to be the one, if you're in the date, you're going out on the date, you have the shirt. And that's the one you're going to wear for the first date because you look awesome in that shirt. You look like Johnny Depp. You look like, I don't know, you look like anybody. Whatever it is, you are that in that shirt. And then you buy that shirt and you go out and you wear it to a party, and then there's somebody right over there that is thinner than you and better looking than you wearing the same shirt, and you're like, man, they're rocking that shirt. And you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, God, this shirt sucks. I gotta go find a new shirt. And Kohl's says, thank you. You know, I've got a new shirt for you. And it's twice as much as the old shirt. So come on over. This has happened to all of us. You start dating someone and he's awesome and he's got a great job and he's cool looking and all this stuff and you start to take 500 selfies or dwelfies or whatever it is where you got both of you in it and you're wow. And you position your face just right so you don't show all the blemishes and stuff like that. And you make sure the lighting's good and all that stuff. And you run it filters. Filters are great. Because if they took a picture of me and it was in good focus, you would see how nasty I look. So you get the out of focus filter, beauty filter, and rub it out in Photoshop. You put all that stuff on there and you look cool. You look cooler than everybody else. And you start to put your pictures up. Then all of a sudden you look and your friend has started dating somebody else. And he's like 3 inches taller. He can bench press more. He makes $30,000 more a year. And all of a sudden after her, you look at her 200,000 dwelfies that are up there and you go, wow, she's got 8,000 likes on every one of them. That's 200,000. Oh my goodness. And then you start looking back at your picture and you go, wait a minute. This dude was awesome 5 minutes ago. What's wrong with that? It happens to all of us, this curse of comparison. But I'm going to tell you something. This is the truth. And you need to understand this. You need to write this down and take this with you. The fastest way to kill something special is to compare it to something else. The fastest way to kill something special is to compare it to something else. Or you could say it like this: where comparison begins, contentment ends. Where comparison begins, contentment ends. And the truth is that is such an unhealthy way to live, but it's so how we are geared to live in our life. There are unhealthy ways that we use comparison. And here's a couple of them. One, we use it to leverage influence. I have better connections. I have people that are better friends than yours. I want to leverage I want you to see the people that I influence so I'm better than that dude over there, so you like me better or you think better of me. I have a friend all the time, and he always shares his Facebook status. It pops up out every 6 months, Last night I was having dinner with my good friend Adam Levine, and I couldn't believe how large his children were getting. And I'm sitting here going, Adam Levine, Maroon 5. I'm going, oh my gosh, this guy is awesome. And then all of a sudden I think, what's the next thing you think? I don't know anybody like Adam Levine. Do I know any stars? I know Aaron. I'm friends with Aaron. Aaron looks like Adam Levine, but when I start to put that up on Facebook, and I do a side-by-side picture, it's like, okay, well, maybe not. But it's still not the real thing. And start feeling bad. You try to leverage your influence with people because you want people to like you. You try to level your influence. You try to level up your value by comparison all the time. And it's usually a negative comparison. People do it in elections all the time. You see it. It's not about what I am. It's not about what I know. It's not about what I'm going to explain. It's about how bad that guy is over there. I did like a political ad commercial like way back. And it was our previous worship leader a few years ago. And put like horns on him and stuff like that just to illustrate how stupid those ads are. This beautiful picture of him and everything. It's like, he's such a great looking guy. He's almost too great looking. There must be something wrong with him. That's how they are. They just do that. We level up our value by knocking somebody else down in comparison. But here's the dangerous part, and we do this all the time. The third thing we do, we legitimize sin. We use it to legitimize our sin. Look, yeah, I know I said that, but dude over there, I saw he goes to church. He's got an ichthus on it, the little fishy thing on his car, a star. He's got like one of those cool Bay West stickers, and he was way worse than I am. So because I'm not as bad as that guy, then I'm okay. I'll tell you something, greed. I've had people come confess a lot of sins to me. They're like, I'm not confession, but they'll just be talking and they'll share that because I'm not Catholic. We don't do the confession thing. But anyway, you confess that to Jesus. You don't need me for that. But anyway, you come in and I've had to confess. I never hear anybody confess this sin. I'm just going to confess I'm so greedy. I never hear anybody confess that. You want to know why? Because there's always somebody else that you think is more greedy than you. And you always can point to somebody else. There's always some rich dude or some rich straw man that we make up in the argument. They make up a straw man argument. You craft this character that's really, really bad. And he's this rich dude. If I had as much money as him, I would be doing X, Y, and Z. No, you'd just be doing whatever you're doing right now in a bigger way. You'd be committing the same sin you're doing right now in a bigger way. If you're a skinflint when you got little, you'll be a skinflint when you got big. That's what's going to happen. But we compare ourselves with other people to legitimize the sin in our lives. Unhealthy behaviors that damage us, that hurt us. And we do this over and over. I want to tell you something. There was a pastor that I listened to a lot, Andy Stanley, and he's out of North Point Community Church. He said, we live in the land of like -er. It's not enough to be pretty, we have to be prettier. It's not enough to be rich, we have to be richer. It's not enough we have to have, have a great job. We have to be smart, we have to be smarter. It's like whatever I want whatever they have plus a little bit better. But where comparison begins, contentment ends. And I'm going to tell you the source of most of your frustrations in life, most of them, somewhere down in that is mixed this kind of unhealthy comparison. And the Bible speaks to that. Paul talks about that in 2 Corinthians. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, he said this. He said, don't worry. Now, he's talking about some guys that are around him. That there's always somebody. Let me tell you, Paul, you'll read all his books, and somewhere in every one of the books and letters that Paul wrote, he's trying to defend against somebody else who came in behind him and tried to say what Paul really means, By the way, you should remember that. Every time you try to come in behind somebody and go, oh, I know what they're really saying. They really mean, you probably don't. You probably really don't unless you've sat down and had a long conversation with them. None of these guys had with Paul. But they would always come in and try to reinterpret the things that Paul had said because they want to have influence with the people that they were talking to. And when he's addressing them, he says, oh, don't worry. We wouldn't dare say that we are as wonderful as these other men who tell you how important they are. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to worry about that. I wouldn't dare say that. He continues on and he says, but they are only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as a standard of measurement. And what does he say with an exclamation point at the end? How ignorant. And he actually wrote an exclamation point in the Greek. No, he didn't. It's known by the meaning of the word. It's known by the translation of the word. But how ignorant is that to compare yourself to everybody else? They're only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as a standard of measurement. Paul calls it ignorant. It's easy when you if you read this in today's attitude to say he's just throwing shade at somebody over there. I'm just making fun of them. But no, this is in the Bible. God left this in the Bible. This is something that God left for everybody to understand. So you can't just throw it out as just kind of an offhand comment. This is important. He says, look, it is ignorant to take you and compare me with how Aaron is doing over here and say, oh, because Aaron is this, I'm not. Oh, okay, I suck. It's hard to do that. Comparing makes you feel either superior or inferior, but neither of which honors God. Do you know that? When God sent Jesus, he was saying that you are the most valuable thing to me. I love you. I made you alive. I made you as you are. You don't have to be what somebody else is. I have a design specifically for you. And here's the thing, and we look at social media, it's so hard. It's so hard these days not to miss the fact. We've got social media all over the place, and it's great. I like it. I like connecting with old friends and stuff like that. I like finding articles and reading them. And cool videos. There's always the baby video that's like doing something stupid, like eating a lemon or something like that, and it's always a laugh fest and everything. And there's always kind of stuff for somebody doing some extreme sport or something, and it's fun. But it's never been an easier time than it is to compare ourselves to other people. I heard somebody say one time, when you do that, you're comparing, and here's what we do. When we see someone else, they've got this beautiful family photo, and they're like playing cards, and they just look like they should be like on an advertisement or something like that. Or, man, that dude, they're always having fun. He's got to be the greatest dad in the world. She's got to be the greatest mom that has ever lived, because look at her making those cute little things, and their kids are making crafts, and they're like, they have their own Etsy, or what is Etsy? Is that something like that? They do stuff on Etsy or whatever those things. What's the app that you got to look for cute things? Pinterest, yes. Her 4-year-old has her own Pinterest channel with like millions of people just, oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing in the world. And they're so awesome, and I'm the worst in the world, but my kid can't draw. That's what you have. But see, here's the thing. Here's where you are. What I heard is what we're doing when we look at that, we are comparing their highlight reel to our behind the scenes. And those do not compare. I always laugh when somebody shows me that, we talk basketball and it's about time to come up for the draft. If you're a Mavericks fan like I am, because we suck and all we can hope for is to get a high pick in the draft. That's all we have. If we compare ourselves to other people. I took my kids to the Magic and the Mavericks the other night, and we're watching the game, and of course it went like I wanted it to. We played really well. We had some good spots. I enjoyed some of the younger players, and then we lost at the end so that we could jump ahead of the Magic in the lottery for the draft. We got more chances to get a higher pick. But somebody always, every time there's a message board that I'm on and we talk about it, and somebody always puts up this obscure college player that they want you to draft, and they want to prove it by putting up his highlight video. I got news for you. Anybody that's played college ever, you could put a highlight video together that makes them look like Michael Jordan. I remember this guy named Mo Ager, played for Michigan State. And he was going to be the first round pick of the draft. And everybody's like, oh, he's awesome. He's got unlimited range. He's got some. He was out of the league in like 2 years. And he was like our first round pick. We blew a pick on somebody but you look at his highlight reel and he's dunking it. And he's making passes behind his back over his shoulder and shooting it from incredible three-point range. And it's probably like the one pass he made and the one three-pointer he made and the one dunk he made. But you watch the video and you think, oh man, he does that all the time. You know what? The people you look at on your Facebook and stuff and Instagram and all that, they don't look like this all the time. I'm going to give you a little secret. Our family, if you see a good picture of our family doing like this, 5 minutes before that, we were probably fighting each other. And you were screaming, and I had to put somebody in timeout, and something like that. I'm telling you, that's just what it is. And I'm posterizing that moment because I want to remember years later from now, it wasn't all bad. There's a moment for me. It was okay. You got to remember that when you're thinking about comparison. So why do we do that? Why do we do that? The reason that we do that is because we have this thing inside of us. We've been ripped away from our Creator because we chose a life of sin. And we made a choice to do something other than what God said, and we broke fellowship with the God who meant for us to be connected to Him. And because we made that choice, we're now trying to run around and find some external win to solve our internal problems. And those don't exist. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. You look at the Bible, and if you look way out, and you'll see all the disciples and stuff like that, and you think, well, they were perfect. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. I'm going to tell you, the disciples struggled with comparison just as much as anybody. You look all through the Gospels, and you're reading about, one of them's going, well, who's going to be greatest in the kingdom of heaven? I'm better than, Peter over there. That was going on all the time. Sometimes you look at the stuff that Jesus left in the Bible about the disciples, it looks like they were children or something like that. And you see, what you begin to see is there's really there gets to be rivalries between them almost that you see. I heard a pastor one time, he was preaching, and his name is Craig Groeschel, Pastor's Life Church. But he was preaching, and he talked about he said, I think John was probably annoyed by Peter. Because John, every time he writes, he's always referring to himself in the third person. And you go read the book of John. It's like the other disciple, the disciple that Jesus loved, he always refers to himself in the third person. It's like the artist formerly known as Prince, the disciple formerly known as John. Don't you just want to if you got somebody in your life that refers to themselves, I'm the student formerly known as high school, you just want to pop them in the face, Stop it. Gosh, wake up. Reboot the computer, something, But there's this kind of tension you see between those guys, because we know that Peter has a pretty big personality, right? He's a pretty large personality guy. But then here's John next to him, and there's all these little jabs. You look at the book of John, these little jabs back and forth that could be seen as talking about Peter. It said, I want you to listen to this passage in John chapter 20, okay? All right, this is right after the resurrection. Good timing for the message, right? We're resurrection last week, right after resurrection. Right after resurrection. And I want you to see, this is right before they, you know the story, the disciples, they came, Mary went, she found out Jesus is not there. He's gone, the tomb's rolled away, the stone's rolled away. She runs back, tells the disciples, and then you have this situation happen. I want you to think, when you read this, you know the story, Peter and John, they raced to the tomb, John got there first. I want you to think, how many times, notice in this passage, that John points out, I'm faster than Peter. All right, let's read this. In John chapter 20, verse 2. So Mary came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved. He's talking about himself, okay? All right, it's like the one Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved. Frame, selfie. Anyway, all right. The one Jesus loved and said, they have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him. So Peter and the other disciple, the other disciple started for the tomb. Verse 4. Now both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter. Jesus is alive, but I outran Peter. And reaching the tomb first, in verse 6, and then Simon Peter came along behind. He came behind. He was second. I was faster. He came along behind him and went straight into the tomb. Verse 8. Then finally the other disciple who had reached the tomb first. I think we've got it, John. Also went inside. It's like, hey, Jesus is resurrected from the dead, but I'm faster than Peter. I outran him. You can see those guys. Mary shows up, and hey, it's the tomb. And you see them like they're starting to walk, and they're like walking faster, and they're chasing each other and getting out. And John wins, all right? And you have this tension between them. And so then it begins to continue to mount. And the story goes on into John 21, where after the resurrection, they're trying to catch fish on the boat, and they can't, and then Jesus walks up, and no one recognizes him. They're trying to cast it on one side of the boat, and he yells from the shore, hey, cast it on the other side, and all that stuff. And John even points out there, he says, I recognized him first. Says the other disciple recognized him first. And I told Peter, he says that literally, I told Peter that's Jesus. Peter didn't recognize him, I did. I told him that it was Peter. And you have this stuff going on, and then you have this whole thing where Peter's talking about, he's talked about before, he's talked about, God, these guys, I love Peter, all these losers right here, they may deny you. But I will never leave you. And the story about Peter, a little girl comes up, frightens him to death. Are you with Jesus? No, no. And he denied him like 3 times. And then you have this other conversation that happens later where Jesus, after this, he's talking to him. He says, hey, Peter, do you love my sheep? Do you love me? He says, yes. He said, well, feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, and feed my sheep. Peter, do you really with a godly type of love? Changes the word there. Do you love me? Then feed. He says, yes, I do. Then feed my sheep. And you get to this point, after this big, beautiful moment that everybody preaches on all the time, you get this in chapter 21. Verse 20, it says, so Peter turned around. He's just said this. Do you love me? Jesus, like in his face, do you really love me? Yes, I love you. And Peter turned around and saw behind them the disciple that Jesus loved. John wrote that, by the way. So he sees this, and so Peter goes, well, it's not enough that you're like spending this super moment with me. All right, and he goes, hey, what did he say? He goes on and he says this. He says, let's go to the next one, please. Okay, what about, he did. Peter asked Jesus, what about him, Lord? He looks behind him. He goes, okay, this is where. But what about him? How do I compare to this cat? And it goes on, and he says in verse 20, Jesus replied, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? As for you, follow me. So Jesus knew exactly what was going on at that moment. He had this great moment. Peter, all this stuff, and here you go. First thing, turns around. Well, what about him? And Jesus looks at me, who cares? It ain't none of your business. And I'm going to tell you this. God is saying the same thing to everybody in this room about something. Who cares about that person over there and the job they have? Who cares about what kind of house this person has? Who cares about how many people like this person, how many boyfriends they have? Who cares? That your job is to follow me. And that's it. That's all. That's all I need you to do. And see, I tell my kids this all the time. When we talk about, I don't know about you, but you get into stuff, you get conflict with kids. All right, Amory, you just know this because you're in here. Sometimes you just don't know who's at fault, right? You know that, right? You just there, you know. Okay. Amory's my daughter, Facebook Live. Okay, so all right, you just don't know, and you're trying to figure it out, and you can't. Okay, did he hit her first, or she hit him, or they poke each other in the eye at the same time, or what is going on? So a lot of times what I will address is what I want to see moving forward. And this is what I want us to, I'll talk about what I want. This is the standard I want us to keep. We're not going to deal with that. Okay, we'll work on it. You guys apologize to each other because you both did something. I don't know who did it first. But here's what I want to happen moving forward. And I will talk about this. This is what I want you to do. And I will tell them what to do. And invariably, one of them will say something to me, I don't like what you're telling me what to do. And my job, what I tell them, look, your job is obedience, not evaluation. You're not in quality control. You know that? And the same thing is true with us and God. I'm not in the quality control business over what God does in my life. He's already told me what he will give me if I'm faithful. He's already told me if I follow him what will happen. He's already told me all those things. That's all I really need to know. I don't need to quibble on him because they got a cool green car and I have a nasty gray one or whatever. I do have a gray car, but it's not terrible. I didn't mean that like that. But anyway, because here's the thing. This is the truth, okay? You can't faithfully follow Jesus if you're always comparing yourself to someone else. You can't. You can't. Jesus wants you to go this way. You're looking at Jesus. You're trying to put everything into following Jesus. And and all of a sudden Jesus went off over there. How are you going to follow Jesus? How are you going to follow Jesus if you're all the time comparing yourself to other people? And why do we do this? It's this sin, this hole in our heart. We're trying to seek this external win. If I can be better than that person or on the same level, then I know I'm okay. It's not enough for us sometimes we have yet to realize that it's okay as long as God says it's okay with us. That's all it is. It's okay. And what is you can't have enough things. There's not a big enough deal. There's not a big enough deal that you can make to settle the security of who you are in your life. There's not. There's already been a big enough deal. It was the cross. Jesus died on it for you, the creator of the entire universe, the biggest person in the unique category of all his own, died on a cross to bring you back to him. He valued you that much. If something that cataclysmic, something that huge, that one moment in time is not a big enough moment to settle it in your heart, there's nothing else you're going to pick up and add to that to make it better. It's not going to happen. You can't do that. You can't win enough stuff. You can't marry the right person. You can't do any of these things. You can't perform in front of a lot of people. You can't do that. Look, I'm just telling you, I've been on a stage in front of 20, 30,000 people. I have my picture on the big screen, and they're screaming and yelling and all that stuff, and it was exhilarating. It was a one-time moment in my life, and 15 minutes after it was over, it was worthless. It meant nothing. It was not life-changing. It was just a part of the story. And we see this all the time. Person after person after person who thought they got to the pinnacle of the top, and if they were more famous than everybody else, what normally happens? They die. And they kill themselves. That's what you've seen. I mean, I'm telling you, you look at Elvis and you look at Michael Jackson and you look at all these type of situations, and you're not seeing a picture of somebody who was incredibly happy because they got to the top. You can't be bigger than that. Because they got there and it wasn't enough. Being better or being the best will never be enough. Because see, there's one big giant question that you and I have to answer. We have to answer. If you're going to live in this world, you have to answer this question. I don't care what your ideology is. I don't care what your belief system is. At some point, you're going to have to define this question. And you will either just automatically just fall to it, or you will make a conscious decision to go toward the best. And it is this: who or what is going to define my worth? Who's going to do that? Do I have to beat Frank? Or does Frank have to beat me? Is that going to define my worth? I'm going to tell you this. If you follow Jesus, and your answer for who's going to define your worth is Jesus and anything, you're failing. It can't be Jesus. Some of us think I can be a Christ follower, but if I really get that wife, I'm going to be okay. No, that's not going to do it. I can have a great career. If I have a successful career and Jesus. No. If I have a big home and Jesus, if all my friends, if they all think I'm cool and I follow Jesus, then I'm in good shape. If I follow Jesus and my dad approves, or if I follow Jesus and I stick it to my ex because they know I got a better life than them and they should never have left me. And some of us are living like that, and we are failing at life, because the truth is this: Jesus plus everything will get you nothing, but Jesus plus nothing will gain you everything. Everything. And until we answer the question correctly, until we get that through our heads, and sometimes that's going to be a force of will decision. It's not going to be something you feel like every moment that it works that way. But how do we do this? Paul, in the book of Hebrews, talks about two really great things for us to do if we want to accomplish this thing. And first, it talks in Hebrews 12, chapter 1 and 2. Just read the last verse of chapter 1. It says, "And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith." The first thing is run the race. Run with perseverance the race marked out for you. Have you ever played volleyball with somebody who thought they were better than everybody else? And they ran all over the court trying to, take up for everybody and hit every shot? It drive you nuts, don't you? I'm going to trip you and cost a point just one time to see you eat it. Get out of my space. But what usually happens? They get out of their lane, and eventually what will happen, they'll be covering for Sally on the back row or Johnny on the front row, and somebody will just dink the ball right to where they're supposed to be, and nobody's there to get it. What's the worst thing? Anybody run track before? What's the worst thing you can do when you're running a sprint, or when you're running? Is you in your lane, you're running, the worst thing you can do is turn around and look and see where everybody else is, because you naturally slow down. You may speed right back up when you see they're right on your elbow, but you slow down for a bit. The best thing you can do is put your eye on the finish line, and you run as hard as you can. You run your race. You try to stay loose. You keep in your gait. You try to know the pace that you've done, the way you've trained all this time, and you do the best that you can do, regardless of what they do. Do the best you can, and then the chips fall where they may. You got to stay in your lane, and you don't do that by looking at everybody else. You do that how? By fixing your eyes on Jesus. You can't turn right or turn to the right and turn to the left and see what's going to, oh man, it is so hard. You fix your eyes on Jesus. You want to get out of your lane. I wish I had that job. I wish I had that life. I wish I had that girlfriend, that boyfriend. I wish I had that kind of fame. I wish I had that, that kind of social media presence. Whatever it is. I wish I had that kind of authority. I wish I had this kind of job. You know what? God has put in your place every second. I want you to hear this. Hear this from me. The only judge that matters has placed in your life, in every moment, the way for you to be completely successful on the eternal scale. And that is you honor Christ with every decision that you make. And it doesn't matter what the rest of us peons think about you. You have made the grade of God Almighty. And that's enough. It is enough. And I'm going to tell you, when I say it's for me, it's as much for me as it is for you, because I want to tell you what, I can see the other things as well as anyone else. And I can wish I was this or wish I was that, or I needed to be thinner, I need to be this or whatever. You can do that, but God is enough for you. And here's the thing, you fix your eyes on Jesus, you run with purpose for every step, because all the opportunities that are worth something come through your vision of looking at Christ and following Christ. Everything comes through Christ. The revelations about why you're in the situation you're in come through when you're looking at Christ and you're spending time with Christ daily and you're learning who He is and what He's got for you, the reasons why you're in the situation you're in, the blessings God has in store for you come through this lens of when I'm looking at Christ. They don't come through when I look at someone to the right or to the left. What happens is when I look to the right or to the left, I miss the things that God had for me and the reasons that I'm in the situation that I'm in. I miss those when I'm looking away from Christ. I got to fix my eyes on Jesus, who is the pioneer of my faith. He marked the trail out. He already created the race. He did all of it for me. I don't have to do it. I just have to say, okay, what did you go? Where's the map you gave me? I'm going to follow you as long as I can. He's blazing the trail and knocking down things I don't have to deal with. Most of the time when I have barriers that I can't deal with, it's when I got off track and I'm running through the weeds over here in a place that He never pioneered or never trailed that He didn't mark out. But He's not only the pioneer, but He's the perfecter of my faith. He's the one that is going to make my life complete. And the things that come through this focus on Him and this contentment with knowing Christ explain as we go why I'm in doing the things that I'm doing and all the things that are around me and all the things that are there for you in your situation as well. Why do I have to deal with that boss? He's such a jerk, man. Why? Why, God? Why can't I make $10,000 more a year? God, why? Why does she not like me or he not like me? Why? You want to find those answers? You want to find why God is holding that back from you? We want to find why that's not there for you? You need to focus on Christ, because the answers will come from there. They won't come any other place. And you will, because God is flinging the answers at you when you're paying attention. So many times I look at my kids and I'm talking to them and they start looking off over there and I know I don't have their attention and I just say something stupid like, and Jupiter blew up or whatever. And they're like, huh? I'm like, yeah, you missed that. Yeah. Because you weren't paying attention. You didn't have your eyes fixed at the place they needed to be fixed. And so many times that is what it is for us. Now, here's what I got to say for you. You may be a Christian and you follow Jesus. And that's great. That's awesome. It is. It really is. But maybe you've been living through the standard of comparison and you've kind of gotten off track a little bit. And you're having a rough patch in your life. And it's getting worse. And your emotions are getting involved. And you're finding yourself looking over there and going, man, that dude, he's so awesome. I'm not that dude. Or that family, they're so great. I'm not that family. Or that guy, he's on an upward track. He's got promoted 2 times since I've got promoted even once. Man, he's better than me. Maybe you need to stop looking at them and see, what does God have for you? Because there is success in every moment. And you need to move back. Maybe you've got to stop spending time with God daily. Maybe you've stopped spending time with Jesus every day. Maybe you've let that lapse because you're getting a little bit bitter with God because He's not giving you what they got. But what you don't understand is God made you special. And He made a special life for you that will pay off for you if you follow Him. And the only way to know it is to see it to the end. And you need to get back to fixing your eyes on Him. Now, some of you here, you don't follow Jesus. You don't. You really don't. And I'm so glad you came. Man, it's awesome. I don't care if somebody had to drag you here or whatever it was. I really am glad you came. Because I'm going to tell you, some of you guys are struggling with the same things that I've been talking about here. And it's beating you up, and you're losing sleep at night, and you feel bad about yourself, and you don't even know why. And when it comes down to it, you've been comparing your life to somebody else. And I'm telling you, that is a failed race. I'm going to tell you, if you have a life that you're trying to run, and you think the goal is Jesus and somebody else, you're running a race you will never, ever win. Because your race is unique, it's special, and God created it for you. And the only way to be successful in that race is to focus on Him and follow Him. And you haven't made that decision before today. You've thought, okay, I came to church a couple times, maybe I'm a good guy. But you've never said, God, I know that I can't run this race without you in a real, honest way, not just in a once a Sunday, one time a week type of way, but in an every moment type of way. And you said, I would agree that you're the Son of God, but I sure haven't been acting like it. I don't trust everything that you say. I kind of got to run through my filter. I'm living in the area of quality control and evaluation, not in the area of obedience. And you want to find out if you're following Christ, see one of those things. Do you spend your time evaluating what God told you, or do you spend your time doing it? But you've never made a decision. I don't care if you prayed a prayer one time. I don't. I care what did your heart mean? What did you really mean in your heart of hearts? Were you giving your life to Christ and said, look, whatever you want to do, I will do it. That is when you begin a relationship with Christ. That's when you begin to recognize the power of the resurrection, and then you can realize the power to overcome things in your life. That's when you don't have to compare to everybody else. And I'm telling you, it is difficult at times because we've been conditioned our whole life to look at somebody else and try to beat them. The only one that matters that we look at, we will never beat. I'll never be better than Jesus. And you know what? That's okay. He knew that. I don't have to be. And I don't have to compare myself around. I just have to compare myself with Jesus and know He loves me no matter what, and I'm going to follow Him. That's how you overcome. Let's pray. God, I thank you for all you've done. I thank you for your power and your conviction.
Thanks for being a part of Bay West today. Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. Please feel free to check us out at baywestchurch.org, or you can follow us on Facebook at Bay West Church.